Hello everyone. Lots of things are happening around Ukraine with the Americans and Russians cutting deals over there. And I'm telling you, this has implications for Southeast Asia. Curious? Stay on until the end of this video. Last week, America and Russia were in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, cutting a deal over Ukraine. And guess what? Ukraine was not even present, not even Europe. You know, this reminds me of the Berlin Conference of 1884. Well, in case you do not know what this conference is about, well, it was a conference that took place in Berlin, of course, in 1884, where all the European powers were present, and they decided to carve up Africa without the Africans. Today, we are seeing something like that going on, but with Ukraine, without the Ukrainians being involved. Their future is being decided by both these superpowers. I mean, this is how high stakes diplomacy is played. Picture this. We are in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh. The Saudis offer their venue. They convene a meeting, a secret one presumably, and there are just 6 men in the room, 3 from the American side and 3 from the Russian side, who cut out a deal over Ukraine without the Ukrainians present or even the Europeans there. Now, who were present at that meeting? This tells us quite a bit about what direction or intent this meeting was all about. There was, of course, Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, and then there is Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor. And third person on the American side is a man by the name of Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff is President Trump's favorite deal maker. He was also present in the Israel-Hamas talks. So he's a man behind the deals as far as the U.S. side is concerned. So the focus of this meeting from the American side was basically cutting a quick deal and something that would be advantageous to them. On the Russian side, there was Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister. Naturally, he would be there. Number 2, Yuri Yushkanov, the national security advisor to President Putin. And number 3 was an interesting personality, Kirill Dmitriev. This man he heads an investment fund. So you can see on the Russian side too, it was about cutting a deal. And now you can see the whole discussion here seems to be about carving out advantageous deals for each other. As I said, Ukraine was not even there. Despite having received billions upon billions of military and financial assistance from the United States over the last few years in its fight with Russia, isn't it dramatic that Ukraine is not even in the room to decide its future? And adding to the controversy, there are reports that are suggesting that the Trump administration had asked for Ukraine to provide up to $500 billion worth of concessions of strategic and critical minerals to the U.S. as part of its repayment for the assistance that it had received over the years. And Ukraine, which had been the beneficiary of the so-called U.S. And European protection, now finds itself not only without this protection, but also having to pay for its the assistance that it has received in the past. So now you see that the neighborhood, the protection giver, has, in a way, given Ukraine an invoice for the protection money that they owe to the U.S. now, to the tune of $500 billion. And this reminds me, this is basically telling us again that Thucydides' dictum, which he quoted about 2,000 over years ago, still true. Major powers will do what they will in their own national interest, and the rest will have to just live with the consequences. And this is what Ukraine is finding out today. So I said there could be some implication for Southeast Asia, right? Now, why do I say that? Well, in Southeast Asia, we have this competition between the U.S. and China, and as a result of this rivalry and competition, certain countries have chosen to align themselves with the U.S., hoping that the security shield provided by the U.S. would protect them in case of conflict with China. Naturally, you have countries like the Philippines, which relies upon the U.S. Umbrella for its security. Now, we have just seen the case of Ukraine, and we have seen how easily the U.S. can shift. And the U.S., we can't blame the United States for its actions, because a superpower or major power or any country is guided by its own national interests. And it is the same for the U.S. too. It looks out for its own interests. And in this instance here, the Trump administration has decided that, cutting deals with the Russians would be in their best interest. Now, what about Southeast Asia? There is a rivalry between the U.S. and China. It is entirely possible that U.S. and China could also cut out deals to define how their interaction is going to be in this part of the world. And who knows? You might find those countries that have been dependent on the American protection might find themselves out in the cold, or worse still, presented with a bill or invoice, protection money, if you will, for the amount of protection that they have enjoyed over the past number of years. So yes, Southeast Asia, there are implications for Southeast Asia. So I think it's important for ASEAN member countries to very clearly understand the dynamics of what is going on around here. Things are changing. The U.S. administration is now determined to do what it is best in its own interest. And if its interest means that it needs to cut deals, which was previously seen as impossible, we should be prepared for that as well. Well, it's not all doom and gloom. What it means is that there are potential opportunities as well. But again, it is up to the countries to work out those opportunities and see how best they can attain them. So remember, there is no such thing as a benign major power or benign superpower. They are all out for their own interests. And like Thucydides said over 2,000 years ago, superpowers will do what they will, and the rest of us will have to live with it and accommodate. If you like this video, please hit the like button and the bell icon, please.